The Nautilus is a middleweight splatling that has unique properties when compared to others in its class. It breaks away from traditional roles with its ability to store its own charges, which then allows players to take aggressive positions and utilise quick movement. Let's discuss how to get the most out of this weapon. Stats. Like all other splatlings, the Nautilus does 35 damage per shot and has a minimum of 25 for any fall-off damage. The Nautilus doesn't have any changes in damage or fire rate depending on which level of charge you start firing at. When continuously firing, it fires a shot every 4 frames. It has a middling charge time, being faster than the heavy but slower than the mini. It takes about 0.6 seconds to reach the first charge and then another 0.6 seconds to reach the second charge, giving you an approximate time of 1.2 seconds to fully charge the weapon. At the first level of charge, it fires for just under 1 second, and when it's fully charged, it will fire for just under 2 seconds. Its range is also between the mini and the heavy, giving you decent reach for all enemies. When attempting to charge whilst out of ink or jumping, the time is substantially longer, roughly 3 seconds to the first charge and roughly 6 seconds to fully charge it. Ink consumption is moderate. You'll get about 7 full charges before you're out of ink. Half charges will use less, and this may be how you balance your ink tank. After throwing a bomb, you're left with 2 full charges. Just like other splatlings, bombs won't be your focus and you should be quite strict about when you use them. Nautilus is unique in that it has the ability to store partial and full charges while swimming in ink. At any level of charge, you can submerge yourself in ink and reposition yourself as needed. You can hold a charge for approximately 3 seconds before it expires. The 3 seconds restart every time you leave swim form, meaning you can repeatedly charge and hold and move as needed. It then takes 18 frames to fire when you leave ink and release the held charge. The Nautilus also has the ability to pause its firing without punishment. When firing, you can stop and recharge without losing how much you've already charged up already. This, in conjunction with being able to store its charges in ink, is what makes the Nautilus so great when compared to other splatlings in SalmonRun, but more on that later. Another one of the perks of the Nautilus is that it loses very little accuracy when jumping, something that not a lot of weapons have. The variation is 0.3 degrees, so you may not even notice it. Because you're a splatling, you'll be at a natural disadvantage in SalmonRun. Even with all the perks that the Nautilus has, it still has an ink tank that needs careful management. It needs time to refill ink and time to charge the weapon before firing. You'll be punished for using bombs over your main weapon, but you'll need to learn how to strike the right balance and contribute to the overall wave. Boss slaying. Like other splatlings, you won't struggle against most bosses, rather you might struggle against the faster lessers or lots of statics on the field. Steelheads, drizzlers, steel eels, slamming lids, scrappers and flipper floppers are not an issue for the Nautilus and can be managed independently when positioned well. Drizzler torpedoes pose a threat if allowed to repeatedly cover the map in enemy turf. This will limit your mobility and ability to safely refill ink. Any boss that restricts your ability to reposition yourself should be factored in when playing the Nautilus, and the fish stick is one of the more obvious examples of this. Thankfully, your range makes them really easy to take out from the ground. It's imperative you keep an eye on these bosses. Moors and flyfish force you to play outside your strengths and may be hard to manage in large numbers. For multiple flyfish, you may find specials to be more efficient. This is especially so when there are stingers thrown in the mix and you might be on your own. Individually, these bosses are manageable, but caution should be used if you're not completely comfortable managing the ink tank and utilising the Nautilus's ability to pause firing to reposition and thus recharge. It's worth learning as it will help you manage huge crowds of lessers and higher HP bosses like big shots without losing your position or emptying your ink tank. For the less experienced, consider using specials. Weapon roll. The Nautilus is a forward, enemy-slaying weapon that should be used more aggressively than other splatlings. You'll lean more into a natural killing role as you won't find much value in only supporting or painting, but unlike other splatlings, you shouldn't hold back or play defensively. You don't have the range to take far positions like the Hydra or the Heavy, and so you'll be forced to move closer. This forces you to get comfortable with the charge times, ink management, and the tech of the weapon, such as charge holding and recharge charging whilst firing. For Knight and King waves, you'll take the same role as other waves and likely be a primary slayer where possible. It may not fall on you if you're teamed up with faster, more ink-efficient weapons, so it's always worth checking what's needed in a comp. The Naut is more flexible than other Splatlings and can support stronger weapons when needed. Like other Splatlings, you may struggle on Rush, Grillers, or things like Tornado and Mothership if you don't utilise stored charges and management of your ink tank. These Knight waves are generally better for shooters and non-charging weapons anyway. All Splatlings have some disadvantages when compared to other weapons. You're impeded by the requirement to charge the weapon itself. The Nautilus isn't as harshly affected by this, but it's still something you need to be consciously aware of. For example, you'll need to always factor in an approximate 1 second charge time when going to attack bosses or lessers, meaning there needs to be some thinking and pre-planning of your movement and task management. Your role within a squad will always factor in killing rather than supporting, but you can't rush in. Play smart, keep an eye on boss cycles, and keep track of your ink tank. Weapon tech. The Nautilus's ability to store its charges, also called charge holding, separates it from the rest of its class and gives it a unique way to maintain its Slayer role. To completely demonstrate what I mean here, let me paint you a classic situation with a Splatling. You've found a safe position with a good vantage point and you're charging up your weapon to a full charge when suddenly you're forced to move, cancelling your charge, wasting your time and ultimately doing nothing. This is the common narrative with the slower charging Splatlings, however all of them suffer with this to some degree. You're often forced to cancel charges to preserve your safety, rendering yourself ineffective. There's not much you can do here. SalmonRun is hectic, and this is why, generally speaking, Splatlings have a higher skill curve. They take practice and force you to learn boss cycles and improve game sense and awareness. The reason that I mention all of that is to explain that the Nautilus is almost completely exempt from that problem because of its charge holding mechanic. This is what makes the weapon as good as it is. Being forced to move or relocate doesn't interfere with your ability to attack. Once you've moved to a position of safety, you're able to immediately start firing with that stored charge. A lot of what you do in SalmonRun is based around task management and time efficiency. Being able to keep those charges you spent time charging up means you don't lose that time. And these aren't restricted to full charges either. Anytime during the firing of the weapon, you can stop firing and relocate as needed without having to lose any of that time or ink. You're also not punished for half charges or not fully charging the weapon. It's actually kind of encouraged with the Nautilus. Combined with a little jump RNG, you are essentially a non-stop killing machine once you start and can comfortably manage everything in front of you, provided you manage your ink tank well. To get the most out of the Nautilus, you need to utilise its tech. To not is to waste its potential. I hope this video helps you appreciate the Nautilus a little bit more. Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys soon.